asientos acá disponibles si se quieren acercar. Aprovechen. Ahora viene otra tremenda charla, porque la verdad están siendo una mejor que otra. Otro speaker internacional. Si bien Martín es de acá de Argentina, él vive afuera, así que lo podemos considerar también un speaker internacional. Pero ahora viene un speaker muy conocido, Brute Logic, Rodolfo, nos visita de Brasil, de Flamengo, ¿no? ¿Le gusta el Flamengo? Así que, mientras se prepara, do you have your laptop here? Okay. Entonces vamos a hacer alguna pregunta por algún sorteo. A ver, ¿qué podemos preguntar? Vamos a ver, tengo acá preguntas. Sigamos con las siglas. A ver, primero que levante la mano, vos atento, Gonza. ¿Qué significa WAF? ¿Para qué está masticando? No puede. Tragá primero.
Provecho, primero que nada.
Ahí está.
No sé qué significa,
no
sé
sabe.
para qué sirve nomás.
¿Qué significa? ¿Qué significa WAF? Acá, Gonza, acá, me parece. Acá él lo vi que estaba.
Web Application Firewall.
Muy bien, dale, por la ruleta, vaya por la ruleta. A ver, también. ¿Quién dijo eso? Vení, anda a la ruleta también, vos te lo mereces, Dan. Pasa.
Creativo.
Mira, Yes. ¿Tenemos señal de HDMI, gente de técnica? ¿Me confirman? Mientras tanto, tengo otra pregunta. ¿Qué técnica? Esta es un poco más compleja, pero igual, nada, va. ¿Qué técnica se usa para enumerar endpoints en GraphQL? Oh. Ahí vi una mano,
La introspection.
Muy bien. Él se merece no pasar por la ruleta, directamente elegir un premio, porque era una pregunta difícil.
Sí.
Dale, un premio directamente. Muy bien.
¿Te acordás de memoria cómo hacer el payload de introspection?
¿Está ok el HDMI, chicos? Bien, está ok entonces. Bueno, nada, sigamos después, porque ya ¿Estamos en horario? ¿A qué hora era la hora de él? ¿2:20? Ok, estamos. Una pregunta más entonces, una pregunta más. Do you have some question for the people?
Question.
Yeah.
Are you prepared for my talk, please?
Necesitamos un poco de ruido ahí, pero está bien.
Un poco, loco, aplaudí un poco.
Ahí está, un poco.
Parece que se están durmiendo.
Claro. Pará. Vamos a hacer una cosa. Brut, anda para allá. Vos, anda para allá. Ahí. Vamos a hacer de cuenta que no lo presenté. Lo presento ahora oficialmente. Aplausos, gritos, ovación para que sienta la gente de Brasil cómo recibimos a la gente. Entonces, con ustedes, Brute Logic. Aplausos, por favor. Bienvenido, Rodolfo. Todo tuyo.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, Almago. I think it's doable here. It's okay. I think it's doable here. Can you hear me well? Right? Okay. So thank you guys for being here. It's my first time in Argentina, Ekoparty. Thank you, Adrian and his team, friends, everyone. You guys are awesome. I'm here to talk about my brute art of bypass. So I hope you guys already know cross-site scripting because I've been doing that for more than a decade. So I'm going straight to the techniques I use for bypass. So I hope you have your homework done for this talk, okay? I'm Rodolfo Assis from Brazil, better known as Brute Logic. I've been around on Twitter, former Twitter, now X, for more than a decade, doing cross-site scripting stuff and WAF evasion, what we are fucking evasion. And I have a tool named Nox, and web archive now access blog, because it's offline, it's just archived, and a cheat sheet series, which is not the Portuguese one, sorry, it's a different one, but it's cool too, okay? About this talk is based on my book, The Brutal Art of Bypass. You can grab a copy online, please, to support my work. I'm not responsible for anything you can do with that, please. And this ebook is different. The talk is different because you won't see memes, videos, anything cute, fluff stuff. It will be just technical things. You have the mindset, you have the moves, you have techniques. It's all up to you. Everything else is noise, okay? Cross-site script is a different beast. You probably know that. It has a lot of payload, has a lot of scenarios, but we can break it down to 4 main ones, which are the HTML ones, full HTML and inline HTML, and the JavaScript injection ones, which are the code ones and the URL ones. Okay. Let's go for the core concepts and methodology, which is a little bit of talking to prepare you for what comes next, what's coming next. The very first concept I want you to know is the KISS principle. Keep it simple and short. If you are going to copy and paste payloads, please be sure you understand what you are doing. Please understand what each character of the payload is doing, because if you don't do that, you won't learn anything. And that's not really hacking, right? White box and black box. I hope you know that. It's your homework, but just to remind you, a white box, it's something that you just need to review, analyze, and find the hole in the code. But black box is completely different. You have to throw everything against the target and see how it responds to know what's going on and make a mind map for you. White list and black list, similar concept. You're going to see out there most black lists because white lists are difficult to maintain and scale. Black list is the default out there. It seems dumb, it seems stupid. I know, I thought that also, but it's really needed. WAF vendor can't stand with, can't use white lists for every single website and customer out there. So they use a blacklist, they reject the no bad. Syntax aware and key-based filters. You are not going to see syntax aware here because it's something that runs in the client side, usually, like don't purify stuff. We are dealing with filters and WAFs. They look for keywords. They look for something they believe that it's bad and they have to block, okay? In fact, bypasses don't need a vulnerability. Why? Because you just need to go past the filter. You don't need to really pop the alert box. You can pop the alert box in your lab, in your own exercise page. You can just grab a WAF page, a WAF vendor page, and try against it. That's what I do. And that's how I train my ability to bypass them. Game over. Game over, it's an awesome concept that's always on my mind. When you are going to do a bypass, you have to keep in mind that when you reach a certain point, there is still work to do, but the game is over. Why the game is over? Because when you get in the alert zone, in the JavaScript kingdom, the game is over. Because it's so easy to mess with the things and use alternate syntax to make the pop-up appears, okay? So we have to get past, for example, SVG onload equal sign, and for JavaScript scenarios, just the alert that you are going to use. You have to know your filter. You have to know your filter because with time you start to understand how people how it evolves, and how it blocks you, how it doesn't block you. For example, the guys there can't catch the latest on event, on, I don't know, or something that the browser does. It decodes before filtering. So when you really know, it's like knowing a person, it's kind of personal. You're going to see later in the slides. You are not fighting against a system. You are fighting against people who are doing that system. Trial and error methodology. Of course, you have to try and error to get a feedback on what's going on or not, right? So you go step by step to break down the assumptions. You go piece by piece. You place, test, change, and repeat. Sorry for just reading the slide, but it's kind of like that. I can't tell different. Let's see an example of what I'm talking about. We can start with SVG on load. SVG on load example. You remove the parenthesis 1. Still block it. Remove the alert. Still block it. Remove the onload. Play with the onload. Mutate the handler. Go for onload without the D. Onload X with the X on the end. You keep removing things until you get a pass. If you still get blocked. And if you do that, you might need to remove everything to just get to the beginning again, to the less than sign, which is the character that opens the tag, and an arbitrary one like X. That's the backwards mapping. The onwards mapping starts there. When we going back, and we saw that we can't just simply copy and paste something like SVG on load against the field. So we start with opening tag character and the S. And you try SVG. It gets blocked. If yes, you change. After change, you add an event handler, a fake event handler, on X, X, X equals 1. A filter won't block that. At least a slightly one. Sucuri one, which I worked for, had that kind of block, but that generates a lot of false positives, so you probably won't find that. If it passes, you try a real one, like on load. Okay, it passes. So we are on the game over zone. You try RL, alert, and finally RS1. It's not that easy, but that's the technique, You go piece by piece, you place, change, test, place, test, change, repeat. And you have to make deeper cuts, like one character at a time, like I said. Here is another concept where give filters what they want. What they want, what a filter wants to see. It wants to see the full payload, right? The full cross-site script payload. It wants to see any malicious payload, but I'm talking about cross-site script. So in that example, it might stop looking after it finds the first character that closes the tag, the greater than sign, which is inside the event handler, and it's a perfect valid cross-site scripting syntax, JavaScript syntax, and pops the alert box. Here are more examples of what you don't have to do, what you don't have to give to filters, because you have to give to filters everything what they want, but you don't have to give everything what they want. So, for example, you don't give them the closing sign. You have SVG on load, alert1, // with a comment, so the tag becomes open. You have variations of that, the same trick. In the last example, it's import without the double slash after the HTTPS, because it's a valid syntax, but a filter might be looking for that double slash, you know, because filters are regex, regular expressions. They are static. They just look for that kind of thing. They can't adapt. So if you just don't give them a pair of slash like that on that call for a URL, they completely miss your payload. It's all about assumptions. That's what I was talking about. It's foundation on every bypass. The filters are made by people, and people fail all the time. But what they fail, how they fail, they have the same knowledge as you, sometimes even more than you. But they fail because they have assumptions. They think the payload is going to get in that or another way. You have to break that. You have to break that expectation of how the payload are going to come to them. Okay, let's go straight in the techniques now. Now it's going to be hard. I hope you are still with me, right? Okay. So we start with a generic tag name, the less than sign plus X, and a fake event handler, generic one, on 3x, xxx, equals 1. This is completely harmless. No filter will block you, but it's a kind of probe. You can try to see how it will respond to that first attempt to play with the filter. See how far it goes. Add some X to the end. That happens with some filters. Some filters tolerate just few characters after the on keyword. They are looking for on. They are looking for on. They are not looking for on load, on click, on those events that HTML has. They are looking for on something. Encode those pieces. You can URL encode them easily. But these are not going to really bypass the filter. They are prepared to receive the characters in that way. It's the URL and even the protocol spec. So, but it's one of the techniques you have in your sleeve to use it. You should change the case. You should use mixed case, but not the kind of mixed case you see online with people kind of like making fun of those payloads, you know. There must be a reason to do it that way. So you do it just, remember the KISS principle. You just need to make it simple and short. So you use only those you need to make you get past the filter. You don't need to make fun of the payload. Repute attributes. That's a technique that seems naive, but you see the Cloudflare, for example, fall for it. On XXX equals 1, repeated, the filter might stop in the first one. Inject separators. Separators are like 09, 0C, 2F. Those are valid syntax for HTML. You should use them. You should use them all the time, even for other techniques and types of injection, right? Because this will be in the URL in your attack payload. You should use codes too to try to trick the filter, but these alone won't work. But keep them. Finally, not finally, mimic alternate structures. Like there is an opening tag in the first example, less than sign plus X, followed by something that resembles a closing HTML tag on XXX equals 1. The second example uses a closing sign, a closing tag sign in the middle of the payload, which is the attribute of the value 1. It's the value of the attribute 1, sorry. And finally, the last one, HTTP, resembles a URL. Believe it or not, this might trick a filter. Finally, combine them all. Layer techniques. Use them all together. That's why we have that mess you are going to see there. And it's just a combo of URL encoding and the techniques that I've just talking about. It's still not enough to trick most of WAFs out there. WAFs out there are much more smarter than that. But they are part of what we are going to do. Now we come to the first easy win, which is evading with the invisible characters. 0A, 0D, 09, and 0C between the event handler and the equal sign. Here's the Imperva WAF bypass. You can see that the 0C before the onload and the equal sign makes all the difference to bypass that WAF. Just a single byte encoded. It's a perfect valid syntax. It works, it pops. But you might notice that the elements are changing from their places. The onload becomes before the source. But that is the second bypass. The first bypass didn't need that. We have now what are the most common regex regular expression flaws? First one is the missed flags. If the guy who made the filter misses the G flag, everything they are looking for will only get the first match. Okay, so you can just double it and he will stop in the first one. You will trick him or the filter in the first occurrence. The second one is the missing I flag, which matches the case. That's why I told you to use mixed case, because some naive filters miss that flag. When you just use an uppercase in one of them, you can get past the filter. Grid behavior. When you have dot star, which matches everything after something, but the guy forgets to use the S flag, the new lines characters get passed. You can use new lines to inject something. And finally, one of the most common is the lack of anchoring. Patterns without the caret sign and the dollar sign allow substrings anywhere. So you're going to see examples of that later, but it's kind of something that the guy who makes the filter have to tell exactly where he is going to look for that keyword. Because if he's going to look for that keyword in any part of your input, you can just place it anywhere. Okay, easy win 2. That's the classic Cloudflare bypass. Can you see? Can you see SVG1 or load alert 1? It gets tricky. That pops an alert box because it looks for the first one. Think the first one from one, it's the real event handler, which is not. It's the onload, so it gets tricky. You pop an alert box. That's the classic one. The actual one is a little variation of that, but it's the same trick. The universal bypass, it's when you have a payload and the application removes something from your input. So PHP string function, for example, it removes the space from the input of the O of the variable. So when you have that example as an input, the pop-up will appear because the application will just remove the space and put it all together. That happens too with old ASP pages, but with percentage sign. Easy win number 3, validation is a lie. When you are going to exploit some input field which requires validation, like an email format, you have to use that kind of payload. You just can't use scriptality1 or even SVG onload 1. You have to use in that format because there's a function that validates the way the input is used. For URL, it's the same. You have JavaScript, colon, // and all that syntax you need to make it pop in the way JavaScript requires. But it resembles an URL. You see the question mark in the end, it's like the carry string. So that's the way you can miss a payload that bypass, not a WAF, but you miss a payload that should be valid in the application, but you think it's just safe, but it's not. It just requires a validation, a simple validation. It's not a security filter. Encode techniques. Now it's going to be hard because look at that payload. Look at how boring it might be. But for someone like me, use it to deal with bytes and character encoding, it's something more easy. Alert1 that you use for cross-site scripting, you should use top.alert1 because alert1 is a function from the window object. And window has some properties. One of the properties is the window top. It's the top window of the document. You have to see in the docs why, but it's like that. And remember, keys, keep it simple and short. So top alert is my first choice because that is window parent, window something. There are other windows that can call the alert function. So I'm going for top alert1. Top alert1 can be written in that way with brackets, so we can use the quotes, the alert as a string instead of function. It becomes a string. And then the \145 is the octal for the E. So we have top alert here. And for the parenthesis 1, we have lpar, which is HTML entity for left parenthesis. That's why you have that kind of beast here. Here are the encode techniques. You have the URL, X, octal, Unicode escape, Unicode standard, and the entities, both named and numeric. Those are the techniques at your disposal, but you have to know when to use them or how to combine them. Encode techniques can be used for other things too, not just to trick the filter in that way, just to appear different. It can be used to nullify some characters in the application side. That happens with char sets from Chinese and Japanese ones. In the scenario when you have JavaScript injection like alert1, and you try to escape the escape, because there's a filter that escapes your quote, and you try to escape that escape. You try to use a backslash to nullify a backslash. It doesn't work. But in Japanese and Chinese char set, you can use those bytes you see there to nullify, to combine with the character, the backslash that prevents you to pop the alert box, and that works. So the encode technique goes beyond just bypass of WAFs and visual techniques. It just combines with other bytes to make you bypass some scenarios. Issue number 4, make them fix your payload. I really hope you grasp that because can you see that payload? If you have an application that removes the script script string with an opening tag, you can use that in the middle of your payload. So we're going to remove that and make it become the good old SVG onload RH1. So you have that monster here becoming our classic payload. And the filter can even do the replacement of that keyword with another word, like redacted. And you can still use it against the filter because the application will transform into redacted and still a valid HTML injection and cross-site scripting payload. Method swapping, that's a pretty straightforward one because you just need to flip to get to post, because post is much more complex, much more heavy, and WAFs and filters have a harder time to inspect post bodies. So if you have an application that accepts in the search field, for example, both get and post, go for post, because the rules will be more relaxed for you to bypass it. In PHP, we have a weird behavior, interesting behavior, to be honest, because it takes post first. So you can do some trick in the get part, in the URL, and put your real payload in the post body. The easy win number 5, subvert the expected order. It's what happens with the Impeva bypass I've told you earlier. You can just change the order of the elements in the bypass, in the HTML vector. Image source with URL, with an image, gets blocked. But if you just change the place of the source and the onload, it passes. In the case of Impeva WAF, you just need the 0C character after the onload to make everything going good. But there was a time that was bypassed that way, just inverting the things. Getting back to our baseline attacks, splitting keywords. You always have to split the keywords you are using. So we are not using RT1 here. You are using top RT1 because RT becomes a string and then you can split the string. So those are the examples of how the string can get split with variables, with just additions inside the top, inside the brackets. And there's a last one which related to regex, regular expressions, how the JavaScript use regular expressions with the .source property. That is a technique that works for injections in general, because cross-site script is just JavaScript injection. So it's a concept that you can use for any injection. Split your payload as long as you have transformed that into strings. There are more ways to do that with template literals, but I think I'm running out of time, so I'm not going to explain this one well because it's kind of difficult. But if you know template literals, if you come from the development part, you understand what's going on here. We are using a property, the URL. URL is a string that contains the URL you are dealing with, which is HTTPS something, right? So an URL is an array, it's a string which is an array of characters. And the first character of HTTP is H, and the second is T, HTTP. The second character is the index 1. So URL 1 is the letter T. So top alert T in the both examples here. But there's a technique that accepts any DOM property. Okay? You can use document domain. Here is the example. I suggest you to review the slides later because I have to pass them fast to comply with the time. Is win number 6. When you have something that try to fix what you try to search for, like in that example. If an application has a search feature that responds with, did you mean something? You know, like Google. That happened to me with LinkedIn 10 years ago. And that was kind of like that I cross-site scripted that. I searched for an incomplete string, script without the I word, and he auto-completed for me doing that payload. You have tricks and quicks. Tricks too. You can pad many zeros as you want in front of the HTML entities, like those zeros you can see before the 40 number. You don't need to use semicolon sometimes. Anything that you remove or add, the filter won't notice. You know, it works for you to bypass the filter. Syntax tolerance. Browsers tolerate a lot of things. So you don't need, for example, no source for the image on error payload. The same is valid for some attributes, like autofocus. Autofocus, you usually need in a payload, but you don't need to use a value for it. But if you use, as long as it's not false or zero, it's okay. And the filter is not expecting that. It's expecting just the autofocus, because autofocus works alone. So every time you break the assumption of the filter, it's a way to bypass it. We have some fancy syntax with alert1 that way. I won't go through them each one, you can check later, but it's kind of like that, it's just different syntax. We have dangling markup. What is dangling markup? It's when you leave the attribute very open, like in the first one, it's an anchor, which calls JavaScript alert1. If someone clicks on it, it will pop the alert box. But if you just keep it open with some comments in the end, the browser will take all the rest of the code, all the DOM that he builds, and it will close that hanging, that dangling markup you have. You know, the second example is just a fake dangling markup, because the slash is not a valid syntax, not a valid attribute. Part 3 is advanced exploitation. We have Adrian, please. Can we have just a little break? Yeah? No.
Sí. Okay.
Yeah, no, just a little break.
Yes. Vamos a hacer un sorteo mientras tanto.
No, I need to get out there.
Yes. No problem. Come.
Okay.
Hacemos unas preguntitas. Bueno, entre el medio. We can take some time.
Just a little.
Okay. No worries. Thank you. Well, we have to. Amelia. Okay, we have something important now. Perdón, pasa que estamos cambiando acá todo. Bueno, acá está esta chica que es de Portswigger, que va a venir a hablarles un ratito en inglés, les va a contar algo brevemente, así que si no saben inglés, después lo traducimos ahí con el GPT, algo vamos a inventar. So, please welcome to the stage, Amelia.
Hi everyone. Sorry I don't speak Spanish, so I can only speak English to you guys. My name's Amelia and I'm from Portswigger. We're the creators of Burp Suite and we're delighted to be sponsoring the Bug Bounty Village at Ekoparty this year. This is my first time at Ekoparty, but it's been so great to meet people so far and I really hope to get to meet more of you. We've recently released new agentic AI capabilities into Burp Suite, and I'd love to talk to as many people as possible about that. We've got lots of swag, T-shirts, stickers. We've also got exclusive yerba mate gourds, which I believe is really important and special to Argentina. So come say hi, and yeah, I look forward to meeting you all. Thank you for having me.
Y antes de olvidarnos, thanks for everything, but es el cumpleaños de ella, así que a la cuenta de 1. Amelia, 2, como quieran, happy birthday o feliz cumpleaños. 3, que lo cumpla, Amelia. O sea, Thank you. Tenemos un poco más de tiempo para hacer algunas preguntas. Si alguno quiere preguntar algo relacionado a la charla de Brute Logic en este mismo momento. No, pero bueno, se la contesto yo. ¿Dónde está Brute? Podemos hacer un poco de un sorteo, ¿no? Esteban. Sí, todas las slides que están acá, primero va a estar grabado. Y cualquier cosita igual después nos contactan por el grupo de Telegram y tenemos ahí los slides para compartir. ¿Alguna otra pregunta? No ganaste nada por eso, así que...
Tenemos un libro más para regalar.
Tenemos un libro. Bueno, dáselo a este que lo que hice la única pregunta.
¿No? Ahí está, hay una pregunta.
No, aprovechando los payloads que mostraba y todo, no sé si alguien de los acá presentes lo ha usado y le ha funcionado.
¿Sí, no aparece?
¿Alguien de los que ha mostrado?
Perdón, no escuché.
Si de los payloads que se han mostrado, si alguien lo ha usado y le ha funcionado.
Ahí alguien le... no sé.
¿Es para contestar o para preguntar? A ver, yo te puedo contestar esto si querés. Hace un rato en una de las slides había comentado sobre poner tags en el medio porque hay ciertos comportamientos de los WAFs que lo que hacen es remover palabras claves que están en una blacklist. Por ejemplo, script. Entonces el tipo dice algo, script con el tag, lo que sea. Remueve el script en el medio y se concatena. Eso lo estaba comentando, no sé si quedó claro, pero bueno, en mi caso particular un pentest básicamente fue armar el script de esa manera, concatenando el string tipo tipo un image on error, por decir algo, y en el medio del on error ponía un script tag entero, lo removía y hacía on error, lo juntaba, me armaba el evento y terminaba explotando. Lo mismo para parte de alert, entonces vos ponés las palabras que están blacklisteadas y las removés. Básicamente funciona. No siempre, no es o sea, depende, como dijo Brute, depende mucho del ambiente y de cómo está seteado en base al tipo que está del otro lado pensando el atacante va a poner script. Pero no piensa que el atacante va a hacer una concatenación interna y todo eso. Are you okay, Brute? Vamos, Brute, un aplauso.
El libro, ¿no?
Are you okay? Muy buena pregunta, ¿eh?
Well,
muy buena respuesta.
I have finished your talk for you. No, it's a joke.
I'm sorry, guys. It's just a health problem that I have to address. I wasn't counting on that, but I hope you understand because I'm human like everyone else. I'm not a WAF or filter.
Aplauso, por favor. Fuerte aplauso para Brute.
Vamos, Brute.
Vamos.
Thank you. So I hope to not be too late for the next presentation. But let's see the last exploitation techniques. There's one called best fit mapping, which works for some ASP and .NET apps, which uses some Unicode characters that you are seeing on the screen, which abuse similar visually alternatives of the characters. Java apps fall for the byte fallback technique, which is a similar one to the best fit mapping, but every invalid X byte falls back to 0. So when we have 7X, for example, it becomes 7-0. So all, in the example, the payload example, we have all P, the letter P, in the decoding of that payload. That can be used too as a separator, as I talked before. The 0A, you can use 0XA or 0 any letter that is not a valid one. There are some transformations made by the application itself. Some functions like normalization functions, lowercase functions, as you can see here, like the script in uppercase with the accent on I becomes a valid lowercase script one. You should always test for that kind of change in the input. The easy win number 7 is about whitelists. Usually WordPress have a whitelist path, which is WP admin, admin Ajax. PHP supports a way to build the URL. In that way, you can see in the second line. You can use the target page / and the path that's whitelisted by the WAF. So you can pass it through because it won't block you since it's whitelisted. HPP, which is HTTP parameter pollution, probably you all know that. It's very similar to multi-input and the whole URL as an input. It's a reflection of everything. The difference is the way that you can abuse that. With HTTP, you have that example here. When the entire URL gets reflected, you have more space to use decoys for the filter. And with multi-input, like parameter A, B, C, D, and E, you can change the order, so the filter won't notice what's going on. The easy win number 8, exploit partial matches. That relates to the lack of anchoring we were talking about earlier about regex. I've seen a lot of websites doing that kind of check. Index of domain TLD equals, doesn't equals -1. It checks for the presence of that string, but you can bypass it easily with prefix, suffix, or subdomains, like the domain TLD x55.is. It's mostly used for post-message XSS. We have base64. You can imagine the base64, no WAF filter will try to decode it, or any other type of encoding that's not the regular one, because it's too costly for them to do that, so they don't do. The easy win number 9 is a Fortinet WAFs bypass with the latest, one of the latest event handlers on content visibility outstate change that we can use with the style attribute to get past the filter. It's a perfect valid cross-site script vector. So you should always check the latest one. Double encoding is one of my favorites because people usually use that kind of double encoding, just double encode the percentage sign. But in the JavaScript payload, JavaScript column payload, when you use JavaScript injection with the URL, the pseudo protocol, you can use embed bytes. You can encode the first or the second digit of the 3C, which is already the encoding of the less than sign, which is the opening tag. Tag blending, one of my latest techniques. You can move the payload outside the HTML vector, like in the follow example, because filters are looking for the keywords, right? They are looking for the alert. So if you use SVG onload, location, text content, the text content, it's the JavaScript alert one. But the JavaScript alert one, it's easy to catch. So you blend it with some HTML tags, like that fake one, the K1, in the number 2 point here. We have endless variations with that. You can use inner HTML text contents. Again, we are using the K tag to mess with the way the filter is looking for your payload. You can use any HTML tag. I'm using a custom one, that K1 for Knox. You can hide it completely, put in the fragment of the URL, the hash sign. Everything after the hash sign doesn't get sent to the server, it stays on the client. Again, I suggest you to revise the slide later because it's something that you want to study. The last easy win, it's the race condition. When you have an injection point, the filter that will block you comes after the injection point, it's easy. You just need to comment all the rest, like using the HTML comments or the XMP tag. Comment jump. Comment jump, it's one of the greatest techniques that I have, and you can use everywhere for every type of injection. It's a universal one. It adds an extra layer of complexity. You can use double slashes. You can use the comments of the HTML comments. You can use the hash sign URL encoder. But you have to jump. Okay, you comment first and then you jump with 0A or 0D. That's an example here. SVG on load, alert, comment, fake closing, jump, and resume the payload. With that, you can do a lot of filter mining games. There's a lot of variations you can see here. There's no time for you to read and think about them. Please check the slide later. It works everywhere, even for SQL injection. Here are some SQL injection examples. Those ones were actual bypasses for Cloudflare and Akamai, respectively, the uniselect ones. Don't get stuck on those on-event or 09 SVG. Lots of hunters come with me with asking for that. How can I bypass that? You just need to manipulate the structure. You can use fake opening tags. You can use fake inline handlers. I'm running out of the time. I can't explain that well, but you can revise later. Another fake dangling markup. That's a complex one. But trust me, you can make the browser comment something that it shouldn't comment and transform what it should be some harmless payload in a very dangerous one. More inside the vector techniques, because that's the hardest part. The hardest part is to deal with the HTML vector. The JavaScript ones are easy. Finally, the JavaScript playground. You just need to get past the JavaScript keyword. Once you get that, it's game over. That endless tricks. You can prepend bytes from 00 with the new byte to the space 1 with 20. You can insert 09, 0A, 0D anywhere. That's an example here. And the most important thing, the JavaScript payload accepts both code and a string. When it accepts code, it's JavaScript alert 1. And when it accepts string, it's JavaScript image source on Nero alert between quotes example. You can use all the tricks we've learned so far, but the double encode is the best. BypaX. BypaX is a tool that I've built to do all those tricks, to perform all those techniques for you. You just need to build it. It's a free tool that will be available soon at my website. And you should also check my ebooks and other resources at my website, richlord.net, and my cross-site scripting tool that it's been online for almost a decade, helping hunters to find cross-site scripting bugs and getting some bounties. Gracias, and sorry for anything.